today we have Dave West with us. Dave shat on Parawinging.
I always look forward to your introductions of people. And so I was like, oh, I definitely got to give this a go. And I didn't expect the challenges that I ran into. Oh, first session was horrendous. There was a day where I was just like, I want to quit so everybody just leaves me alone. I was just getting destroyed.
Because you posted a video that I didn't like.
The very premise that people take a paddle with them as a safety precaution.
I'm going to rip into you a little bit because I disagree with a lot of the stuff you said.
My counter to not shuttling.
The other thing that I think you will not agree with.
Fuck this sport. I don't think it's going to replace full wave riding. Firstly, you wouldn't have been able to use the Parawing to get back in. One that goes in your favor is travel. I'll raise a point and give you that point. Yeah, I'll lobby that one. I think early on I thought my foiling ability would make it easier. Like I was going to make this reel the other day. I'm like training for Parawing. I was going to be like putting out the washing for my wife.
Welcome to the Lab Rat for the podcast. My name is Dan, and today we have Dave West with us. Dave shat on Parawinging. He is the naysayer. He is the man who's here to destroy Parawinging. Welcome to the podcast, mate.
Thanks, mate. I always look forward to your introductions of people because they're usually like a lot nicer.
There is a lot. We have a bit of a great debate going on, paddle versus Parawing, which we'll get into. But in all honesty, man, I really admire everything you've done. You're a professional foiler, DJ, YouTuber, and you have a pro model with Amos, which I recently bought, the Cypher, which we want to get into and discuss why that's such an awesome Parawinging board. Welcome to the podcast. Is that a little better?
That's awesome. No.
Man, yeah, that's a lot better. Dude, we have lots to talk about. You did a really cool kind of series on learning to Parawing. I did a similar thing. All my first sessions are out there. We'll get into that. But before we dive into Parawinging and just downwinding in general, tell us a little bit about your background in sports. Where did you start in board sports and how did you get into foiling?
So I was just one of those kids that grew up skateboarding, obsessed with X Games. Like I'd record it every Sunday on like a VCR. And then because my parents would take us to church and I miss it. But skateboarding, then as soon as I saw kite surfing, I was like, that is amazing. So I was living in Adelaide at the time and I started kite surfing, I think, when I was about 14. So I'm 35 now, which was really difficult as a 14-year-old to get your parents to buy you gear. So I had like the shittiest slingshot fuel that lasted me like 4 years. I don't know how.
Mind you, the fuel probably has the same shape today as it has back then.
Great kite. I still love
Great
fuel.
kite.
Like if I got back into kiting, I'd go back on sea kites. I just love them.
Classic.
It's just that's what destroys your elbows. It's great.
I love it.
And
Feels
then,
like a Parawing, actually.
It does. It does. And then I moved to Darwin and started wakeboarding because there's no real wind in Darwin. And so I started cable wakeboarding and boat wakeboarding to sort of fill the niche. And I got pretty good at that reasonably quickly. I never got like amazing at kite surfing. Like I liked wake style, but I never, I sort of bottomed out at mobs and stuff. That was about as far as I got.
That's pretty good, man.
Yeah.
Not everybody can chuck a mob.
I can't now. I don't think I could do it anymore. And then... but I started to do those tricks on cable and because of the consistency, you could just go every day. It was amazing. And then I moved to the Sunshine Coast and there's an amazing cable park here. And I just cabled. I used to cable 3 to 4 hours a day while I was at uni. So I didn't do much uni.
Cable's sick.
And
I had a cable phase. It's good.
Oh man, it was, I still like wish my body could handle it.
It's so hard on the body, man.
It's like,
I'm 41, so I come out of the water, I feel like a fucking tractor just ran over me.
And you remember it because you go back and do one session. The next day, you cannot walk. Yeah. It's insane.
It's true.
Everything's bracing, and it's the strongest I've ever been when I cabled because you have to be strong and Anyway, so that just destroyed my body, and I started surfing a lot at the same time because I didn't really grow up near the beach, so I didn't surf much, and just got deep into surfing, loved surfing, completely obsessed. And then during the pandemic, I was one of the pandemic babies of foiling, and saw foiling. I saw guys at where I just was just then, and I was like, that's insane, and had heaps of free time because I worked as a medical rep, and they essentially my job shut down. So I had heaps of time on my hands, and so
what did you see? Was it wingers that you saw that you were like, I want to do that?
Nah, prone.
Foiling? Prone.
Yeah. We don't really have any kite foilers here. We've probably got maybe 2 or 3 that pop up every now and again. Definitely not a kite foiling scene here. It's winging and prone for the most part, but really mainly winging.
Yeah. And so then you got into prone foiling.
Yeah.
How long did you go into that before you started winging?
Probably only 3 months, and then I saw some guys winging, and I got deep into that too. So I winged a lot at the very beginning, like heaps, and that was fun. And I never really got very good at winging, and part of my issue with winging was my elbows, because I've destroyed my elbows over the years with all these sports, and that especially the early wings. Like I had a Nash Matador. Like, holy moly, that thing just destroyed your arms.
I remember the Matador.
Yes. So I want to draw some parallels from the Matador to the Ensis Roger. But anyway.
The Matador, it has a very good name, Matador. It does really kill you. It is a killer, man. It's so heavy, that thing.
And then they'd bag out, and you just be like, it's like having a plastic bag that you're just going,
Great wing. Got us into it.
At the time, it was great.
It was great. Yeah. The first, I remember the first Nash wing I went out on. Geez, it had no bottom end. And then when the Matador came out, it was the knees bees. It was like, this is next level. So you said you where did you cap out in winging? Like, were you doing technical stuff? What was the purpose of winging? Wave riding and maximizing that?
I really wanted to do like freestyle, flat water freestyle stuff. And then I started trying to do 360s and stuff, and I lost interest so quickly because I was busting my ankles. You know, you're wearing straps. It's always a risk for your ankles and stuff, and just realized that I'm getting old enough that I don't want to get injuries. So I then leaned into wave riding, and downwinding, sup downwinding really was exploding. And I jumped on that bandwagon, and I haven't looked back since. I don't put on straps. I don't do freestyle. I'll do strapless airs like prone, but I think that's safer than strapped airs personally.
Yeah, no, I hear what you're saying. How was the downwinding, the sup downwinding journey for you? Because, man, I felt like that's the hardest discipline I've ever had to learn in foiling.
Oh, for sure. It's, and this is probably the biggest point of difference is like learning to sup downwind, especially for me not having any paddle background, was extremely difficult. There was a day, and I think I put this in one of my long YouTube videos, where I wanted to, like, I was at the point where I could have cried. I was on my board in the ocean. We were 3 hours. I was 3 hours into a 15K run, like so exhausted, 2 kilometers out to sea, and just sitting on my board over my chest, just being like,
why am I doing this?
Defeated, man. And it's the most character building thing I've ever done, like, other than having children. Literally, like, other than children, it's the most I've had to develop myself internally.
Man, that's so true.
Like, it's insane.
I had one day where I had a similar thing, man. I would just go on, like, even smaller runs here in the Bay, 5Ks, and it would take me an hour. And I'm like, what am I doing? And one day I got the paddle, and I just whacked the paddle on the water, and my GoPro just went boop, and had no floaty on it. It just sank, and I'm like, fuck, man, I don't know what I'm doing here. So I lost the GoPro, and yeah, that day wasn't a fun day. The reward is
punched boards. I've done the punch down on the board and put a big dent in it.
Good thing you're sponsored by Amos.
I wasn't at the time, so I think I was on a Carbon Co at that time. So
Carbon Co. I wrote a lot of Carbon Co's too.
Yeah, I saw that. Yeah,
They're good, man.
Mitch,
I had Mitchie.
Mitch does a good job.
He does. I haven't like gotten into his mid lengths and downwind boards. I had a vape, the kite
little
board,
the
sick board.
tray.
Yeah, a little tray.
Yeah.
Cool. And then, well, you went like heavy into downwinding. You got really proficient at it. Are you doing the races this year?
Yeah. Other than I'm not doing M2O.
Okay.
So I'm actually working on a video at the moment to explain why, but the crux of it is just the boats.
Yeah, man,
it's actually the most dangerous thing you could possibly do for that race. So
yeah.
And all credit to the organizers. It's incredibly hard to organize these events. And there's a history of like the way that they've done safety too for the paddlers and prones. But like my boat, he was a good oceanman, but he couldn't get used to the fact that I'd go 35 Ks an hour, then suddenly drop back to 20. And so he's chasing me, trying to keep up.
Jeez.
And then he's right on my tail. And then I'm on a groundswell, and then I'm suddenly on a wind bump. And you know, these boat drivers, they don't know what we do. So I'm suddenly cutting left, and he's like literally a meter behind me. So, and then the wash
is just crazy. So how many people do it? It's like, is it like around 70, 100?
It's 100 this year.
All right. So look, that's just unreasonable, man.
It's insane.
100, and then 100 boats, one per competitor. So, wouldn't it be easier? And how long is it? 40 Ks?
No, 56.
56 Ks. All right, let's say 60 Ks. Wouldn't it be easier to, like, as part of your entry fee, to have another $500 and put like 20 boats?
Yep, that's what we all said.
Yeah,
that's what we all said. And the other part of that is you could have people streaming, so you could have everyone link into some system, and then you've got like media that's staged as well. Not that you'd see everyone because everyone spreads out, but essentially like you'd make a rule. So you'd have all the boats south because the island is more north. So if you go past the boat on the south side, you're disqualified.
Yeah. And
so there's a line of boats and everybody stays north of those boats.
Doesn't seem like a hard thing to really resolve. Because you guys are paying, how much does it cost to have a boat rider? Like
$2,000.
$2,000.
So the race costs, you know, $2,500 just to enter. And so we're a little bit tighter on money this year. And so I was like, firstly, just the money savings from the boat and the race. And then I just, because I fell in the first, I've probably told this story before, but I was like right next to Oscar. I was next to Jack Ho. And then somebody's boat came past me to check if I was their rider. And then as they shot off to go find somebody else, I got hit by their chop and I got knocked off.
Man, that's my dog. Sorry.
It happened to other people too.
That is really bad. I mean, you should be disqualified for that, to be honest.
And they don't know any better. They're just desperately trying to find their riders. So it's I couldn't stand up, legitimately couldn't stand up for 15 minutes.
Because then you're just in shitty water, backwash.
Yep. So you've got all the boats of the front runners, and I had an excellent start. I was one of the first up.
Man, I'd be pissed off.
Yeah. Oh man. And then couldn't stand up. So anybody who was struggling at the back, I copped their boats as well.
Yeah.
So I ended up coming like 70th out of 100 people.
Yeah.
Which I was expecting to be 30 to 40.
Yeah.
And that's probably, and the exhaustion levels, like 15 minutes of trying to stand up, because I kept trying. I shouldn't have. I should have just accepted the reality, conserved my energy. Absolutely destroyed me. And then I had 2.5 hours of downwinding in front of me. So
sounds like a great experience, man.
I hated it. I absolutely hated it. And everyone's like, oh man. And I just don't have that personality of the race adventure thing.
Yeah, I know what you mean.
Like people are like, but you've achieved this like crossing. I'm like, yes, but I didn't achieve it to the, not even close to the best of my ability. Like that was one of my worst downwind runs I've done in that entire year.
Yeah.
But
you'd be better off just going out with your mates and doing that exact same run and just
without boats. I'd do that for
boats,
sure. Yeah.
Surfing, just having the time of your life.
An adventure, absolutely, but not as a race. I want to perform. So, But yeah, doing all the races and really excited. This might be my last Hawaii for a couple of years. Got to probably start prioritizing family holidays rather than foil holidays.
Yeah.
So I'm really looking forward to this one because it could be the last one for a little while. You've got to get over there if you can.
Yeah, man, I haven't been to Hawaii at all, and really keen to go to Maui. Like everybody's like, man, you have to come down. You have to come down. And I'm like, well, this year I'm going to Hood, which I'm stoked about. That'll be July. And
is there a race there when you're there?
I don't know. I don't know if there's a race. I know Ewan's doing like he's doing an event, like a kite event, but I don't know if there's gonna be a race, like a downwind race. You're saying?
Yeah, I think there is. I think there's one that like so many people don't go to because of the Hawaii race, but apparently it's really fun.
If there's a race, I'll join it. I'll join it on the Parawing just to
Yeah, well, and we should talk about this, the Parawing race divisions, because I think anyway.
There's something there. No, and we spoke about this, and I interviewed Elliot LeBeau the other day, and we kind of came to the same place that we chatted about a little while back about what a Parawing race could look like.
Yep.
And they're doing Paddle Amua this year is doing a Parawing division. A lot of people are joining that, and I think maybe next year M2O might have a Parawing thing as well.
But it's like numbers is especially in Australia where we don't really have, critical mass of sup downwinders. I think we've got to start getting the wingers and parawingers and even foil drivers, foil assists involved in downwind runs. It does present some unique challenges, which I saw in Barcelona. Like, there was only 2 of us that finished a race in the foil drive division.
Out of how many?
Oh, sorry, 3 out of 7.
Okay.
So, but what it meant was the only 4 people that worried the organizers were all in the foil assist division.
Yeah, then it becomes a hassle.
Yeah, and so you don't want a whole division that gives you concern. So I think for future, like that, you'll need to show that you can complete a run of that distance. So for the Sunny Coast race that we're going to run this year, we're going to have a foil assist division, but we're going to say like you need to show us that you've completed at least a 10-kilometer run. Obviously, you can fall, but within say an hour or something, it needs to be within a reasonable time frame, or else you as an organizer are like, where the fuck is everyone?
Yeah. And what was it? Were they just like, I don't know, recreational?
Yeah, they just didn't
drivers?
downwind. Yeah. And so the Parawing could be the same as winging. You could have a variable where people aren't, I wouldn't, they're not actual downwinders. They are people who, do 500-meter runs on a downwind run, but they can't downwind the whole way. And if you get a lull in wind or something, you don't want to be like, holy shit, our race is now 5 hours long because these guys are belly paddling on a short board.
That's the thing with parawinging.
It presents unique challenges that we need to have, safety boats and stuff for. So it's interesting.
Yeah, I can see something like that. I think the cool thing about doing but then it would have to be a Parawing specific race would be to do a very short course that you do laps on. But then it doesn't work for all foiling divisions. Maybe it works for foil drive, but not paddling.
Yep.
Dave, let's get into parawinging, man. So what kind of drew your interest into this whole new discipline? Like, when did you see it and you were like, oh, I'm going to try one of them?
Well, to be honest, there's this challenge as a person who makes content to be relevant. That's just a reality, man. Is like, sup downwind has been pushed so hard that there are people that are like, it doesn't have the same pizzazz that it used to. And so I was like, I definitely got to give this a go. And I'd love to do that, for my audience, to see how I go with it and see how hard it is. And I absolutely see and do see a lot of potential for parawinging. So it was a no-brainer to give it a go and see how it all played out. And I didn't expect the challenges that I ran into. And I think that was probably where my frustrations came from.
You got a lot of heat, haven't you?
I have. You know what? There was a day where I was just like, I want to quit so everybody just leaves me alone. Because there was all these people that were like fanatical, like almost religious veracity. Just like, fuck you, Dave.
It's a cult now, man.
And I get it because, like, when people shit on sup downwind,
Yeah.
I'm like, nah, it's just you don't get it.
Mm-hmm.
But so, like, when Generic Foiling Podcast guys, when they were talking about sup downwind, I was like, no, it's just because you suck at it, and it's true. And I recognize that was the same for me, was that I was shit at it, so I couldn't see certain eventualities that I now do see, even though I'm still shit at it. But I see, I see further down the line now.
So tell us about those sessions. I mean, for people who want to follow them, I highly recommend watching all of those videos, because if you're getting into parawinging, you're going to run into those things.
Watch all three. Don't just watch one. Because if you watch the first one, you might not start.
Yeah, that first one was like, nope, this is not for me.
I was off
I
at
saw
8.
you catching maybe that was the second one that I saw you catching so much speed with a downwind board,
man.
just like eating it, like top speed and Mach 10, just like face dive you into the water. But let's go through those 3 sessions, because like any sport, man, like when I started winging, the amount of cursing in the water was ridiculous. I hated it because you're just standing there. You don't know how to generate power. When I started with the paddle, was the same thing, man. Going on those runs that we spoke about and just eating it for a while. So talk about those 3 sessions.
So I think because I could wing, I did expect it to be easier. And I found winging fairly easy to learn. I'm not sure why, but I would actually say it was mainly because I would go when it was pretty windy. Helps. Yeah, that's like, what's it called? Foreshadowing. And so I've forgotten what I was talking about now. What was the question again?
Your first session.
Oh, first session was horrendous. Absolutely horrendous. So I watched, I think I watched some of your videos, and then there wasn't much else out there on my first session. There was a few from Cynthia. And so I tried to watch some videos, but there was things that like you just watch a video, but you don't, you scroll through all that sort of thing. So there's stuff I missed.
Yeah.
So I went out in 12 knots.
Oh God. Even today it sucks, man.
Oh, it's so bad.
Yeah.
And, but I put on the 1540S. I was like, sweet. Like the foil will get me up. And I just thought, as long as I can get the board moving, I'll be sweet. Got the board moving. Nothing happened. And from that, like I wasn't angling correctly. I now know that. Because when you get up with a wing, you actually angle more downwind than you do with a parawing, because you can pull yourself downwind. So you know what I'm talking about. As you luff,
pumping,
your angle is actually further downwind. Whereas a parawing, you build speed and then start to head across the window. And I just, that didn't even occur to me. And I think that's because I never kite foiled. I think that
does help, man.
Yeah, and because it wasn't just kiting, it was kite foiling that I think I missed, which does put some pieces of the puzzle together for you. So that was really frustrating. And then I just essentially repeated the same mistakes the following 2 sessions, because I was keen to get onto it. And so it was like 12 knots again.
Oh my.
I was like, well, like, because we get that wind all the time.
Yeah.
That's like our southeasterly will be 12 to 14 knots.
And you on 12 knots, you are 90 kilos?
I was 96 at the time.
96 kilos.
Yep.
Sure, big board, big foil. And with the 4.2, that's the size you were using. So that's really underpowered, right? Like that's asking a lot out of the gear and out of the first sessions. And then, so was that session 1 and 2 or session? I mean, I'm talking more about the videos, not the sessions. Yeah.
So the first video referred to the first 3 sessions.
Okay.
And then there was a session, the 4th session. So that was all from video 1. The 4th session, it was 30 knots.
Yes. Too much.
And then I had a different experience. I was on the 1540S because I was like, I've got to get this freaking thing up.
Yep.
And then, oh my God, I was just getting destroyed.
Yeah.
And I couldn't hold on. I couldn't cut up wind. I didn't have a harness. And obviously being that overpowered, I was literally like holding onto the front lines like that to try and get some D-power. And then I ended up having to downwind home because I'd ended up so far downwind that I was like, stuff this. And I did my first downwinder because obviously, because I can already downwind, that wasn't an issue.
Yeah,
so
you
I
just got up.
I was like, fuck. But I had no leash. So I was like, oh,
Oh
shit,
my
this is
God.
dicey. So
No leash on the board or on the Parawing?
on the board.
Yeah, nah, that's.
And it was like 4 foot swell. So,
oh my.
but because I was planning to just be in this little safe bay, I was like, I don't need the leash. And then, yeah, just got blown probably 2 Ks away. And I was like, oh man, I'm never getting back upwind. And so, yeah. And that was the first time when I was like, oh, and I was out there. I was like, I can see why people would do this.
Yep.
Once they get up, they do have a lot of grunt. They pull really hard. But it's just that initial get up phase that I've obviously still been trying to work through.
Have you tried your wingboard or a wingboard with it?
Yeah, so I've tried the Cypher, but it wasn't windy enough.
Yeah.
It's just this ongoing variable on the Sunshine Coast that we just don't get strong wind. So, and this is one of the things I wanted to talk about is that we have this variable where when we get a southerly system, we'll get 4 to 6 foot swell as well. And so the challenge is when it is windy enough, the conditions are so crazy that it's not the sort of conditions that you would want to be out on a small board anyway, from a safety perspective. Because if shit hits the fan, you're going to have to be coming through a surf zone. And I'd actually rather be on a big board than a small board if I had to do a big paddle in. But also just getting up, you're not getting those runways because you fall in between the swells and you get that like wind shadow thing that happens over the top of the swells. And so you're trying to get up. And what I experienced was on this windy day that I went out is like I'd get going and then the swell would come and I've dropped down and it's like the Parawing wants to fall.
Yeah, there's no wind in the troughs because the troughs are so big.
The troughs are so big. And so I've come to this conclusion that if I lived where you are or like Hobart, so we've been talking about moving to Tasmania and I was like, absolutely, I would have a full Parawing quiver because they get such good wind and it's all bay bumps. And if it's 30 knots, it's still fun and safe.
It's amazing.
Whereas our 30 knots is so dangerous. And it's really like you can't surf either. So you don't need to be on a short board because you're going so fast you can't turn.
Yeah,
You're
keeping up with the groundswell really in those conditions.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And you have to keep up the groundswells or else you get caught in between and there's nothing in between.
Yeah. And the thing, I don't know if people like that downwind or starting to downwind, they don't understand when it's big like that and you have groundswell, the size of the troughs are so big that pumping in between them becomes hard if you're not really good. Like they're long. And then when you're pumping, I think you lose too much speed and then the groundswell passes you and then you're just cooked, especially if you're on a high aspect or something.
And we call it no man's land. Like there's 2 speeds that you need to go and when it's really big, either super slow, which is I'm on a giant foil and you're like, and everyone will do this when they're learning to downwind. You put on a giant foil and it's a big day, but you'll be like, I'm on a wind bump. Now a swell goes through and then it's flat. And you're like, oh shit, pumping. And then something comes under you. You get a little boost, flat again.
Yeah.
Whereas the fun part of big days is you're on a 600R and you're doing Mach 1, 40 Ks an hour. And then it's effortless. You just, it's the best feeling. And on those days, which is when I could use the Parawing because we get enough wind, I want to pump. I want to paddle. For so many reasons, which we can get into. But I've realized that's what the biggest variable is. Why I think I see less opportunity for me is just where I live. The certain geographical areas are really suited to Parawing because you've got surfy bumps in a bay and you've got strong wind and you've got easy launch and access. And as soon as there's big swell involved and big groundswell, it's 20 to 30 knots. It's a different type of downwinding that I think you end up doing.
Yeah, I get that. And look, we do a lot of downwinders in Torquay, and like I try to keep up with the snows. God, they're just like lit up on those big days, and it is hard. It is hard, but I think the getting up part and the not having wind in the troughs, but if it's windy enough, you'll get up. You will get up. It's obviously a lot of water. We have a lot of backwash here as well, especially if it's like just a southerly, because it just hits the cliffs and comes back. So it is messy. I feel like it's not something that you're going to get into in your first maybe year of learning to downwind. Those conditions are pretty
for
pretty
sure.
gnarly. But as you become more experienced and as you become more interested in like more extreme conditions and stuff, you'll work up to it. But it's not an easy thing. So yeah, like just don't get out there and expect to nail an ocean run with big swell.
And there's two layers to my thoughts on Parawing. There's what it means for me, and that is what I think it means for other people, and particularly people trying to learn to downwind. And I would say, like, so for me, it's a different set of priorities. Whereas for people learning to downwind, I am so supportive of Parawing. Like anything that reduces people's hurdles to get into downwinding, I'm so on board with. Where I think it caps out is distance that I would encourage people to go. So say you do, I would never encourage anybody to do a 30K run without a paddle on a Parawing, because a 30K run is an hour and a half or so. And in those sort of time frames, things will change.
Yeah, the conditions change a lot.
Exactly. Like wind can die. Whereas, that 5, even up to 10K range, I'm like, yep, that's the sweet spot for Parawing, say, car shuttle Parawinging, which is something I will always do because I just enjoy the downwind leg so much more than an upwind Parawing leg.
Yeah.
But, that's also geographical. But the dangers around doing longer runs with only a Parawing, I think Patrick Rebstock's talked about this a fair bit. That's where I think it caps out. But so many people never get beyond that point. And they have no desire to, or they have no time to. So, they want to just do a 5K run. Like the Tassie crew, when I went there, they all just do pretty much 5 to 7 kilometer runs.
But that's so quick, man. Like 5Ks takes nothing.
Exactly. But it takes nothing for you now. But so many of them are still falling. And so for them, it's like they could do a 5K run, then go back upwind, then do it again. And that's where I'm like, I totally get it. If you've got these limitations of your geography, it's such a good tool because, a 5K run with a car shuttle is not worth it. No, it's like...
Definitely not.
Whereas all our runs are pretty much 12, 15Ks minimum. And then our medium run is 30 kilometers and our big run is 45 kilometers.
Yeah, that's significant.
And that's the thing. Like I'm riding with guys who are not your average riders, and I've been in a bubble for too long that sometimes I forget. It's so
I agree with you with what you're saying. I think a lot of the guys here that, let's say you're an intermediate downwinder, like you're not super advanced, I think 10Ks is the sweet spot for them. And now we have a run here that's 27, and now they're starting to think about it. But I'll do that 27K run on the Parawing, no issues. But I'm in a place where if I'm doing that, I'm checking the forecast 3 days before. I know exactly what the wind's going to do. I actually pay for apps that will give me detailed forecasting, so I actually know what's going to happen. And if the conditions are not right, I'll just pull the pin. Like, no, I'll just do a shorter run. We'll just decrease the run, because I've been out in the bay and I was trying to cross the bay from north to south. I was on a wing and the wind died in the middle of the bay, and it took me 3.5 hours to swim to shore on one of those square wing boards that have no paddle. And had SES trying to find me, everybody trying to find me. I had a black wetsuit, black and white board, black and white wing. So they were flying on top of me. They couldn't see me.
Yeah.
And that is a gnarly situation, man. It sucked. That was the worst
yeah.
thing. Anyway, let's
but because because you live in a bay, that's one of the benefits for you with Parawing. I'm probably like, I've come into this more thinking about why I get why you're so keen on it. You live in a circular bay pretty much. So all the good bumps are in the middle. So you want to get away from land, but getting away from land, you either drive 40 kilometers or you get a Parawing and you just boop, and then you're into the middle. Whereas, because we have such a straight coastline, it's where, you know, our bumps are the same 2 kilometers out as they are 500 meters in.
Yeah. It does help. And I think for me, the thing with being in the bay is like, if it's onshore or cross on or whatever, you're still getting out and you're still doing a downwind run and it's fine. Yep. But here, I think, you know, 1 kilometer offshore, you're already in significantly deep water. That's good enough. So we would just paddle up and we would just cut out to that. It doesn't take that much to cut out a kilometer, but again, it's easier on the Parawing if you.
Yeah. Well, one of the things I was expecting to do more of was on our onshore days was to go Parawing and then cut up wind. And what I found was that's when we get a lot of blue bottles.
Oh God, you're like in Parawing hell over there, man.
So I was like, I'm not paddling out. Like there was days where I was like, oh, it's 18 knots onshore, straight east, straight onshore for us.
Those are good conditions.
And the bumps are amazing when it's east because we then have nothing stopping our fetch. Like literally Hawaii is the next
Infinite,
thing. Yeah. And so, and yeah, I started paddling out, just got smoked by blue bottles, came back in. I was like, fuck this. So, it's less fun in that way. But what I am curious, so I've lost some weight recently. So I'm at 86 kilos now, and I'm curious to see how it changes getting up because I've almost lost 10 kilos.
That's huge,
which is not chump change. And so, but we haven't had any wind. So
did you cut because of the races?
Yeah. I'm slower. So
nice, because you don't have that much speed now because you're lighter. Put some lead on your board, man.
Legit, like I went with Tibby the other day, and Tibby's a big guy. He's big and athletic. He's 96 kilos, and we were on the same bump. And normally, if we're on the same bump, I can stay with him. We were on the same bump, and I finally experienced what everyone else experiences, and he just took away from me. I was like, shit.
Oh no!
So, but
anyway. Did you downscale your foils a little bit now that you're lighter?
No, we were on the same foil, the exact same setup, 770 and 120R, and so that was interesting. And I went on the 860 the other day, and I was like, "Holy crap, this feels huge!"
Yeah.
And so I think I do need to make a whole jump every time, and so I'm getting a 600R now, which I never thought I would because the 680 was definitely where I sort of capped out. But now, I've got a 600R on the way, so which is mental.
That's awesome.
So I'll be pretty fast on a 600R, 80, 6 kilos. So,
but let's finish those sessions. What was the breakthrough moment for you after eating shit for so long when you got up?
Wind. It's not that hard.
What were the conditions? Yeah.
It was 18 knots, and I went. Where did I go? Somewhere. Anyway, it was flat water, and that definitely helps too. But 18 knots, and I actually put on the 860R, and I found that was easier as well, because the 1540 is such a beast.
It's enormous.
That I'd be on my knees, and it would try and take off.
And with a downwind board and like a huge foil like that, I think you would just be tracking in the water, and it would be really hard for you to change, your and turn or just put some weight to change the angle of your board. It would just go. Yeah.
Like I'd have to have my outside foot like hard on the rail to try and get some leverage to get that right angle to get upwind. So, and then keeping the Parawing out of the water. Which, like, even just getting on the board, I used to like let it sort of come down, get on my board, and then and it just takes too long. So I sort of figured out how to just hold it in the air and get back on my board if I fell. But you got to watch that you don't crush your ball sack, because I got back on, and like the board just ended up in my nut, and I just crushed my testicle. And then like you're getting pulled by the Parawing, so it's like nut sack, boom, and then you get pulled off. So.
The joy of Parawing.
Oh, legit. And then as soon as I learned to jibe, I was like, okay, this isn't so bad. Because
Yeah. Then you had a session. It felt like you were in a flow of some sort.
one session, I just magically knew how to Parawing. Like everything clicked. So, yeah, I was doing like around the world. So I was doing all, I don't know what you call it, but I was doing all this weird shit because I just realized like they want to fly when it's windy. Anything below 15 knots, they just do totally different things.
Yeah. But I don't go out on a Parawing in those conditions.
No, and neither will I. So
Yeah.
I think there's always that temptation when you're so excited at the beginning to learn something. You just go out in the conditions that you've got. And most of people are going to learn the hard way, and that's fine. And I learned the hard way.
I'm like you, dude. I'll go, and I did that because you need to explore the lower limit of it. Like, what if you could get up in 15 knots? That would be amazing for you. We'd be doing it every day because that's the conditions you have. But now you know the limitations of the thing. And then you went. I saw you got the skateboard out as well. Did that help you?
Yeah, it did. I was just bored out of my brains because we'd had no wind, and yeah, that helped because you sort of realize like you're just making things I think more natural. So I had that like I literally had a fair few bad sessions, and then I had one session that wasn't too bad, which was the one where I crashed really badly because I was going too fast.
Man, that was a good crash. Please
That
watch
was a
it
good
if
crash.
you haven't.
That took, and then I did the skate session, and then it was literally the next session that I was like, oh, I can do this all of a sudden.
Tell us a little bit about that skate session because not many people are talking about it. But I feel like one of the best things you could do if you know how to skateboard and you're like confident on a skateboard is to take it out and just tell a little bit about like what wind and what size Parawing you were using because also you don't want to put people on a mission where they're 30 knots on a skateboard.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely don't do that. It was like super light. It was like 12, 13 knots. And this is where I think this is the only time I would use Parawing is 12 to 13 knots where the thing isn't going to get stuck to the water. And then one of those surf skateboards is way better, and just get out there and then you learn just how to tack and jibe. Like it's the same as like kite surfing. Like I can fly a kite without looking at it, and that is definitely the point that I think you want to get to with Parawing, where you can fly it without really thinking about it too hard. Yeah. And because they do give you a lot of input in the bar once you get used to it. And it was just a case of mucking around and it really did translate. I was quite surprised because then when you do something wrong, you're like, oh, I can just pull the brake lines and the thing will fly backwards. And that's the sort of stuff that I was getting away with. I was like, oh shit, I made a mistake. I just suddenly pull it and, it would just fly up backwards. And I'd be like, oh, now I can just loop it and keep going. And so I think early on, I thought my foiling ability would make it easier, but it's the other way around. Same as kite surfing. It's actually your kite skills that make it easier. And I think I looked at it backwards.
People stay on land for like 2 days.
Yeah,
they
true.
literally
That's
fly the kite on land for 2 days before they touch a board. And then they go in the water without a board first and just body drag to feel the power of the thing. But, people who are learning how to Parawing, they take the Parawing out, they expect like
straight on the water.
Smash it. Yeah, it takes a little bit of time, and land drills are good.
And it's the same as kite surfing. And you've probably had the same experience where you're underwater getting smashed by a wave kite surfing, and you're still flying the kite to keep it in the air.
Oh yeah, you're probably looping it to like keep it. The tension's on the line, or something like that. Yeah.
And all that stuff saves you from kite mares. I just didn't. I think I've not kite surfed for so long that it didn't like occur to me that like it's the same thing. The more you keep a Parawing in the air, the better your session's going to be in so many ways. They fly better when they're dry. That not sticking to the water, like the hanging out the washing thing. Like I was going to make this reel the other day. I'm like training for Parawing. I was going to be like putting out the washing for my wife.
That is good training, actually. Just let it drip.
Yeah. And then throw it in the air. But the other thing was I think it was Cynthia that I saw. is the whole, this was a real breakthrough. After you've sort of done a little downwind run, don't throw it out. Just let it hang. Because, man, I was doing that every time, and it would go out backwards. Back loop, push, pull you off. Just get it out earlier. It was the best advice. Somebody else said it on your show as well.
Probably Steve Tobis, I think. He talked a little bit about that.
Yeah, actually, it was Steve, yeah.
Yeah.
Great episode. Anybody should go watch Steve. And just let it dangle, and then it will uncoil, and then you're off and away. So, doing those things allows you to rely on your foiling ability to then help you manage the Parawing. So
yeah, because you could pump for a day, man. Like pumping is no problem. You do, and I like that the video that you posted about that dog start to Parawing, like just trying to get up on the thing, man. Explain a little bit about that, because that was a cool one.
Yeah, that was So I finally got a pouch, because man, it's been hard to get a Parawing pouch.
Yep.
At that time I just stuffed it up in my shirt. But I thought, genuinely, people in Europe are going to do this. Like, they are going to dock start, have a Parawing stash somewhere, get up, fly around on a 20-litre board and have a great time. And what I'm going to do next is prone paddling on my surf setup with a Parawing on my back, then get up and have a session.
Interesting.
I'm like, I don't see why that wouldn't work. And then when you crash...
Well, you're just getting on foil in a different way, because
exactly,
if the problem is to get on foil.
So yeah, I can essentially go out when it's 20 knots and just prone chip in, have a little Parawing sesh, and then you're riding the waves the same way you would, because like you can't use a tow boogie in that. You could use a foil drive if you want, or you've got to try and pump up against a 20-knot wind to try and get back up to the point, or you use something like a Parawing. So I'm like, I actually see. Anyway, I'm going to give it a go. We'll see. It could be.
I think that's going to work.
I think so. As long as I just don't want to be tacking up wind and fall a long way off the point. That's what I'm worried about. So, that would suck.
Look, it would suck, but I think the thing that might get you stuck a little bit is because you're going to paddle onto the wave. Once you get up, the Parawing is going to be completely wet in the pouch. And it's a little tip. So just make sure that the lines are all the way extended already. So like when you pull it out, you obviously you're not going to get any tangles. Make sure of that. But once you try to deploy the Parawing, because it's already folded and then it's stupid dry, stupid wet, it won't like open up like super easy, because everything's stuck in a little ball and it's compressed. So maybe once you launch it, just pull a little bit the leading edge just to let it catch a little bit of air, and then it'll inflate. If you just like dangle it super wet, super compact, it is just going to continue to stay in that little ball. It's not going to deploy properly.
A bag of dicks, as I say. when
people,
when people,
that's going to be a cool one to watch.
When people were messaging me early on saying like, how's Parawing going? I was like, this thing's a bag of dicks.
Man, I had so much fun watching your stuff, because I was just laughing. And I think everybody kind of like just wanted to see like someone who was really good at downwinding, like eat it. And you were that person.
Well, and this is what bothers me is so James Casey in the background, he struggled at the beginning, but he doesn't share it. And I was like, and like Josh Koo, he's struggling. Lots of people struggle. And this is what I was like, this is my gripe with the industry, is people struggle in quiet and then they just suddenly emerge. And I could have done that. Like I sort of wish I had now, but it'd be less entertaining. But
no, I think you did well, man.
They work on it quietly in the background and then suddenly they can Parawing. It's like, tell us what your first session was like. James didn't get up in his first session. I think there's huge value. And I think he was the same. He had the 1540 on. He started on, and he went out in too light a wind.
Yeah,
he had to learn, and we all have to go through. And I think there's value in sharing those struggles. And for obviously, I see myself as an education content creator, but I would really start to move towards like just entertainment. That's what I prefer to be. It's like I'd rather just make people
your personality,
laugh.
I reckon.
Yeah, like there's a lot of seriousness in this industry, and I'm like, that's why, you know, like I like things like Generic Foiling Podcast. Like we've got to start laughing at ourselves more. And like my favorite clip from James Casey is him getting cleaned up on the rocks. Have you seen that?
It came back. Yeah, it
Man,
came back.
It came back
had a
like
comeback.
2 weeks ago. That is the most entertaining thing that's happened in foiling in 2 years.
Yeah.
And I just think like that's the stuff that we all really appreciate. So people took it so seriously that I was like, because I wasn't curating my experience. I was brutally honest, and it was on the day. Like I had finished a session. I was angry. I was like, fuck this sport. And it's like, if people don't follow the arc of the story, well, then they'll just think I'm being an asshole towards Parawing. But if you watch the second one, then you watch the third one, you're like, oh yeah, it's fine. It all worked out.
No, I think it was super helpful, man. I appreciate that because, man, it's really hard for someone in your position that has, you know, some reputation to be held, you know, like, and just putting it out there and showing it how it is. I think it's massive, man. I loved it.
What? And it does, like, and I'll give you an example. Let me just look this up because I think this gives you an idea of like people within the industry. We're all looking at each other, right? And James, this is why I'm picking on James. He deserves it. James messaged me. He's like, you're a slow learner. It's why you're so relatable, and it's your superpower. And I was like, fuck you, bro.
Oh, James, he's good. He's good.
Yeah,
I saw him. I met him for the first time in Torquay. I was doing like I was just sup surfing. And then I see this thing coming in the horizon. I'm like, oh, one of the boys is coming in. And then James, I recognized it was him. And then he just started to do these freaking 360s. I'm like, oh my God. He was up for like 50 minutes paddling around. That was the first time I saw the guy. I was like, yeah, okay, it's real.
Do you get to do much prone surfing? Like, do the bay bumps ever allow
Not
you
really.
to? Or is it all Torquay?
Yeah, look, no, mainly Torquay, but there are spots here in the bay. If you go to Frankston, where like it's westerly, like on onshore, and it's pumping, it's 25, 30 knots. Yeah, you can walk out to the pier, which is cool. So you don't have to paddle out. You can just jump off the pier, and then you can prone into a bump, and then you could just pump around for a bit. Yeah,
sweet.
People do that when it's really honking westerly.
Yeah.
Hey, dude, let's talk a little bit about your pro model because I was looking for a Parawing specific board for a long time. Talking to Amos, hey man, I want to do this. Like, where's a Parawinging board? And then you launched the Cypher model, which is kind of like a entry level downwind board. Is that how you're calling it?
Yep, very much so.
And then from that concept, you guys kind of downscaled it to a light wind wingboard or Parawinging board. Tell us about that whole experience with Amos and creating the Cypher, because I really love the concept behind that board.
Yeah, so it was sort of like a bit of a I wanted to be a bit of the antithesis to the way every board model was heading in the industry. And I think a lot of industries have done this where they send all everything becomes a pro model. You know, like surfboards became 25 liters and people were trying to learn to surf on boards that were too small for them. And I was like, I know that this is the wrong direction for most people coming into the sport. When you're coming into this sport, you absolutely need a board that makes things easier. And the two variables around that were length and volume, obviously, but also rocker, bottom shape. And so, you know, there was all these displacement or planing hull, and it doesn't matter how fast your board is if you can't stand on it. And that was sort of the basis that I wanted to build the Cypher from, which was, let's just make this sport more accessible by making the key piece of gear stand on the ball. And so, yeah, it was just born from that. Like, we wanted something. So obviously Amos has the bullet, which is a more advanced shape. And I wanted something that really was like counter to that as well for people coming into the sport. Now, and the interesting thing about a board that's easy to paddle up and easy to stand on is as you progress through your journey and you get on smaller foils, it's now easy to stand on and easy to paddle up. So all my fastest times, bar one, have been on the Cypher because it was...
That's interesting.
I was able to use a 680R, whereas on my Bullet, I had an 810 Bullet, and I couldn't stand on it because obviously you lose stability the smaller your foil gets. And a lot of people don't think about that. Like, a big foil gives a lot of stability. Yeah. And then
how long did it take for you guys to get to like the shape that you wanted?
I had started winging more, and then I had started parawinging, and I just went like, actually, this shape, it will just translate so well to a wingboard. And so Amos and I talked about it, and we looked at how we could change things a little bit. And that whole feeling of like a thin board was still really important to me. It's definitely like, it's not a beginner shape or it's not a intermediate. It's sort of like for anybody, the wing version of the Cypher.
Yeah.
But it was about
why
maintaining some waterline because
is so important.
Oh, I've lost your audio. Hey, bro.
Sorry. Can you hear me?
Hello?
I can hear you.
No. Oh, hold on.
Oh, cables. Yeah, cables are good. Maybe keep the cables.
Hello.
Oh, there he is.
Sorry.
He's waffling along about this Cypher. I'm done with it, mate. Let's move on.
What are you talking
no, just
about?
kidding.
What did you say?
No, I was going to ask why, because you were saying when you were downscaling it for parawinging and winging, you wanted to keep a thin board, not to make it too wide. Why is that important for you for winging or parawinging?
I really like wing boards that are easy to get up because I don't like essentially my elbows suck and I don't want to be luffing heaps. And because I surf the most, you do fall. Like it's not like I just mow the lawn, but also you get a nice connected feel to your boards. And I learned this from SUP downwind. Like I don't like boards that are super thick. It does dull the feeling of the foil, but it also translates to a board that generally will go faster through the water, which I very quickly learnt for parawinging makes a really big difference. So you obviously don't want to go too wide in width, but you don't want to go too narrow that then it becomes really thick and chunky. And I think that was one of my complaints with the Sultan wing was mine was like 6 inches thick to be 95
I still
liters.
use it. And I think I spoke with Keith DeBoule about parawinging shapes and everything, and his view is that a parawinging board needs to be forgiving, and the thicker the board, when it's 25 knots and you're kind of going crosswind, you got swell bumping into you, and it just knocks you out of the board, especially if you have a narrow board. So his idea, and this is why I changed my specs when I got your board, he went with a little bit of a wider shape to keep the sidewall very thin. So when chop comes over, it just kind of goes over the board, and it doesn't track as much, which is also good because the parawing is taking you like left and right, and it's a little bit erratic. So you want a board that can kind of absorb that and not just go this way. And if the parawing is going that way, you're in the water. So I really feel you guys nailed the design, the sizes it comes in as well. I really like the sizes.
And what dimensions did you go? Out of curiosity.
So I went with a custom one just because I'm annoying that way. But I
too, don't worry.
I got a 5'8" by 20 by 65 liters.
Yeah.
And it came around, I think.
Yeah, because I got and you're what, 75 kilos, 80 kilos?
Nah, I'm 82, maybe 85 with all the gear with wetsuit and stuff.
Yeah.
But I went 65 liters because I have a Sultan Wing 85 liter.
Oh, okay. Yep. Yeah, because
So
I've got a
keep
75 liter. I went the Cypher, 75 liter at 6.0 though. So I have compensated with a bit more waterline to have less volume.
Yeah.
Worth reading out the specs here. I have them open. So the Cypher comes. These are the specs on the website, but you could obviously order a custom one. They come in a 5'6" by 19.5, 50 liter. Sick board. You could do everything with that board. That's a cool board. 511 by 20.25, 65 liters. And 6'4" by 21, 80 liters. And for a light wind or heavier guy, this is a perfect parawinging board, man. That's awesome.
Yeah, I actually would like a 6'4", but I have so many boards at the moment, I don't actually have space for it.
Yeah.
Because I think the 6'4" is probably what I'd always use. So whereas
You'd be
now
on
I've
this
got
all the time.
Yeah, I've got a 7'4" Cypher, which is 110 liters, which is my surf sub, which I actually use the most with the Parawing. And then I've got now the 75 liter, but for the 75 liter, I obviously need some pretty good wind.
Yeah.
So I barely use the 75, and so I'm on the Cypher 7'4" the most. But that 6'4" would probably sit right in the middle where I would probably be able to use it in most conditions. So
Especially now that you're ripped. Nice and lean.
that's right. It'd be interesting to see. So, man, pumping on this like the 850S the other day, just in the surf, I was like, "Holy shit, this thing's so much easier to pump now." So
it moves. Yeah, that's such a good foil. I love that 850. And it still amazed me that was the first foil that Code came out
Oh
with.
man,
It's like,
it's a beast of a foil. Like, does everything. Literally does everything. Yeah. So.
Dave, let's get into a little debate here, mate, because you posted a video that I didn't like that said that paddle is king.
Paddle is king.
Why is paddling king, my friend? And why not parawinging is king?
So I think the very premise that people take a paddle with them as a safety precaution and not the other way around. Well, yeah, some people do it the other way around. But the fact that the paddle is the safety precaution says everything to me that I need, which is, and you do downwinding long enough, shit's going to happen. Like, this sport is not safe per se. Like, I've had the wind turn the opposite direction on me. I've had the wind completely die. I've had new wind direction start. Everything and anything can happen. And there's two things that I think give me peace of mind. One is being on a long board to belly paddle. And I think that's probably the big one that it's not even about the Parawing. It's about the board that I have to use in order to participate. And so belly paddling for 2 kilometers on a 6-foot board is a totally different experience to a 8-foot board. And that's probably where I land when I think about what has the most utility in the most settings. And that's why for me, I would still be like, if you can learn to paddle, that's what you should do. Because the wind dies, it doesn't matter. If everything goes to shit, you've at least got a big board that you can sit on and survive on. And like, paddles break. Absolutely. And I'm sure people are going to lose their Parawings. The wind's going to die. Like, shit is going to happen in both categories. But it's really that board that I think ends up being the safety variable. Unless you lose your board, and then you're fucked entirely.
Yeah, well, then you're just cooked. But I'll tell you what, like, when I go out in this, like if I go out to Torquay, for example, and I'm doing a run in open ocean, I will take my downwind board. I will still take my downwind board, but I'll take the Parawing because I can get up on a much smaller foil on a Parawing than I can on the paddle. And I think it would take me for another year for me to, like, in just doing just paddling, to be able to get up on an 850 or 720. I just ride the S series,
and because I've done quite a few downwind runs on a four drive, I know it, and I don't use the motor when I four drive downwind, so I only get to pump. And it is interesting how much slower I feel I go when I don't have a paddle. Like, I actually literally go slower, because
what do you mean?
Like, paddle pumping is really handy, especially in big conditions, when you're chasing a big bump, and if you don't get it, you're caught in no man's land. And so there's two reasons I think a paddle is such a useful tool. Is one, turning, And like Jared Snow put up a clip the other day, and he's leaning on his paddle and he's doing the turn, and you can't do that turn without leaning on a paddle. But then the second is then when you want to go fast. I love having a paddle to surf. I actually think I think it looks cool too. It's not to say that you couldn't do better surfing on a smaller board. I think that's probably true. Like McFloey is the best representative of what Parawing should be. Like just ripping turns on a small board. And that's very attractive. But that is so specific to Hood River and bay bumps, good bay bumps. And so I think as what across the board is the most useful tool, I still think the paddle takes the cake in that regard. But which is harder? Paddle by a long shot. So what do you think?
Well, I'm going to rip into you a little bit because I disagree with a lot of the stuff you said. But for me, the attraction of the Parawing is like the first thing that got me and said, holy shit, this is a game changer, is really the ability for you to do a prone downwinder, right? Something that's reserved for like 1% of the riders out there that can like jump off a rock or chip into a wave and then just ride, going downwind and not falling, right? There's probably 20 people in the world that could do that properly. For me, that was really far-fetched. I would never be able to do that, but I was able to get up on a very small board pretty quickly. And now moving on to sinker boards, it's even better. And the foils that I'm able to ride with the Parawing, I can't really paddle up. And like I think the ones that I was really comfortable with paddling up was the 980. That was super easy. I was going out on the 850, but then if I have to paddle up like 10 times in a run because I'm pushing and I'm trying turns and I'm falling, then my 11th one might be really shit. And it might take me 20 minutes to get up. So for me, the Parawing was like, man, I can be small board, small foil. Number one, unbeatable, man, going downwind in those conditions. The second thing that for me really got me attracted to Parawing is that I can downwind when the conditions for downwinding are not great for the paddle. So onshore conditions, or let's say cross onshore, because going upwind and going downwind, I don't do long runs upwind because they suck. Going upwind is boring and it takes a lot of your energy as well. So for me, if it's cross on, I can get out and just ride 4 or 5 kilometers into the bay, get a perfect angle. And some of the boys are doing that. They take the Parawing out, they have a paddle, they'll put the Parawing away, and then they have the right angle, and then they'll just get up on the paddle and do their runs on the paddle. So for me, riding conditions, it allows me to go out and have a downwind experience, be it upwind, downwind, or just, getting better angles in any conditions. And it saves time, man. I'm done with shuttling. I'm so done with shuttling. Like having to wait for people or just linking up and who's available and be on the chat groups and who's there and all that stuff. So for me, if I have an hour, I'll go out. I'll have a session on the best performing area in the bay, do laps around there, really push my turns and just get a lot out of it. So no gear damage in cars, which happens unfortunately sometimes, foils get chipped and all that stuff. Everybody just piling on top.
And to that point, a variable that doesn't get talked about enough about enjoying downwinding is having a good shuttle crew.
Oh, dude, 100%.
Like I have a good crew. Like we enjoy talking to each other. We enjoy hanging out with each other because you're stuck in the car for an hour or whatever it's going to be. That is a variable that people, that's a variable that people don't talk about, that I underestimate when I've learned those two guys or three guys have been busy and I have to shuttle with other people. It's just a different experience.
Yeah. I know what you mean.
And so it really is dependent on the crew that you have and getting a good crew. So I'll give you that point. That point's yours. You can take that point.
I'll take that point. Thank you. I'll take it. So just the time saving. Go for it.
Oh, sorry. My headphones are doing funky shit again.
Can you hear me?
Yep. You're back. So, and my counter to not shuttling is the fun time on water variable. So it is, if you have a good crew, then I will still shuttle even if I was a Parawinger solely. Because partly because, like I said earlier on, our coastline is suited to it. And I don't think I'd go out that often if, no, that's not true. If living here, no, I was going to say, because if I lived where you are, I would do a 5K run. But if I live here, I will never do a 5K run because I'd rather catch the bus and go back upwind.
Some boys are doing the train run.
Yeah, well, I can see the appeal to that.
Yeah.
One that goes in your favor is travel. Man, traveling with a downwind board is and the idea, like, because I'm doing a Tassie trip soon, the idea of I was going to take a foil drive and I was going to take 2 Parawings and my wing Cypher, 6-foot board bag, no issues, easy to carry around the airport.
Yeah.
I'm very much in support of that because I hate traveling with my sup board. Why is this thing being weird? So
I can hear you.
I'll raise a point and give you that point. Yeah, I'll lobby that one.
The other one is you can save a lot of money with the Parawing. Those downwind boards are expensive, man. And then you have to buy a paddle. That's a $3,000 operation right there, at least. And a Parawing, even though they are expensive for what they are, in my opinion.
Yeah.
It's
I
grand,
agree.
you know?
So, yes, I think there's 2 things. I'm annoyed that Parawings have gone up in price so quickly, especially like the $1,500 range. The markup on those is incredible. Like, we all know that. And I think kudos to North for bringing it out at like $850. And I think
it also doesn't go upwind, but you're getting half a Parawing with that one.
Oh, okay. I didn't know that.
It's not that bad. It just inches upwind. It's a little bit tough to go upwind with that one.
Yeah. But I think I wish these brands would, like, it's not the same as buying a wing. And we want to, I think if they were more around the $800 mark, $900 mark, more people would be like, okay, I'll just buy one and then I'll play around and then I'll end up buying a second one. And so you would end up with a $2,000 sale rather than just one $1,500 sale. Yeah, I sort of wish that they would look at it that way.
I agree that they are expensive for the amount of gear you get and for what it is.
Yeah, and like paddles are expensive. So paddle and a sup board, you're going to be looking at, $4,000, right? So that's the downwind, it's separate to the foils. But I think where Parawing catches up in price and it ends up about the same is they have such a short wind range that you need 2, and then I think you need a more specific wingboard than your 5-foot short, fat and stubby wingboard. That's not ideal. Just like a 7-foot sup board that you have is not ideal to sup downwind.
I'm thinking like if you want to get into it and you have a wingboard, you can start on it. It's not ideal. A lot of wingers have a mid-length these days, which could be really nice to start. And then if you're just going downwind and you want to get into downwinding, I feel as a winger, man, your progression is going to be a lot quicker on the Parawing than learning to paddle, going through everything that you need to do with all that. But the other thing that I think you will not agree with is that I think a Parawing will make you a better downwinder because you don't have that cheat code of the little paddle pump. And a lot of people get into that horrible, horrible vice of just downwinding and doing this for the whole downwinder, just keeping that paddle going. And if you kind of have that security blanket of having a paddle, I think you will, in your brain, learn a little bit slower than someone that has nothing. Like if you're going downwind on with a Parawing, you got nothing. You need to really generate speed with the bumps, and you need to get proficient with that quickly. That's how you downwind with a Parawing. You turn and you build speed that way. Like you get into that much quicker than you do with the paddle, because the paddle, you kind of tend to go straight, and then you do a couple paddle pumps, and then you're trying to go up and over, and, you hope you make it. And I think it'll, over time, create better downwinders. Thoughts?
I think it's hard because the exhaustion level that people experience when they don't know how to read bumps is significant, because they're not effective at pumping because they're pumping uphill and all those sort of things. And so having something to keep you up on foil for longer, even if they're making the wrong choices, I think is still like a net positive in terms of them experiencing what it's like to downwind. And it is, I don't think it's hard because of the level I'm at now. Like when I'm paddle pumping, it's because I'm choosing to go faster. So there's like there's a precipice that you reach where like I can do a 3-minute 30 kilometer if I want, but I have to turn nonstop. And that's a type of downwinding. And then there's racing, and a paddle is nothing but beneficial in racing. It's absolutely beneficial.
Absolutely need it. Yeah.
And so I think it's still like you need to race you need to chase things sometimes, and pumping isn't always the easiest choice unless you're quite fit. So like having just done the Barcelona race where I was trying to go fast on only a 4-wheel drive, so no paddle, like, man, it's so much more demanding because, and you would have experienced this, there's the muscles that you use when you're paddle pumping, and then there's the muscles you use when you only pump, and they are different. There's like a difference in where it loads your body. And I think just teaching people to do both is probably more beneficial than not having the paddle. So I'll always tell people, like, have your paddle ready, because it saves you, like if you breach and you get that unbalance, you can throw your paddle out and sort of catch yourself and keep going. But people need every bit of help to stay on foil when they're learning the very early stages of downwinding.
Yeah.
Now, absolutely, people should break that habit as they get better. But I do think that sort of naturally happens because, it just happens over time. But paddle pumping is such an effective tool. I think more so in ocean conditions. In a bay bumps, I wouldn't need a paddle. No way. But in ocean conditions, a paddle is like really important.
Yeah, I see. I catch myself sometimes in no man's land, like you said, and I notice that I take a little bit longer to completely stow the Parawing when I'm out in Torquay. Like I'll keep it in my hand, I'll fold it, I'll get it ready, but I still have it in my hand because I normally in the bay bumps here, 20 seconds into the run, I can feel the energy, I can feel the speed, I know where I'm at. And if I go down to Torquay, I need a few ground swells to come through to fully understand the conditions. So I will ride with the Parawing in my hand for probably a couple minutes, like 2-3 minutes. And then like I'll do my first K with it and I'm like, all right, cool. I'm going to stash. I'm going to stow.
Yeah.
And then I'll put it away. And that's what I tell people that are learning how to downwind with the Parawing is just like the paddle, you have an assistance, right, in your hand. So once you depower everything, hold the Parawing in one hand, the bar and lines on the other one, like stretch it out and just ride it like that. If you need it, boom, it's your cheat, like a little paddle pump.
Yeah.
Bring it out, stay on foil, grab the next one, and then pull it back in, which will get you that repetition of those movements. It's helpful for Parawinging as well. But it lets you stay on foil because I agree with what you said. Like staying on foil is super important, and trying to link and getting it wrong and still being able to continue and then say, I understood what I did wrong there. Let's not do that again. And then trying again. And then you're like, oh, I've done it again. But you're still on foil. You're still practicing the sport and you don't touch down and you don't have to eat shit for 20 minutes.
Because I would compare the benefit, like I would say more so the damage is done when wingers take their wings in downwind and they have it above their head because they don't realize how much of an assist that actually is.
It is.
So I would,
even just holding it like with that, it gives you another 20%.
Yeah, it's a massive assist. And that puts those people into a false sense of security. And then they get on, say, a Parawing, and they're like, holy shit, I don't know how to downwind. And it's because they don't.
They don't yet, yeah.
Yeah, they don't realize how much more input is required to actually stay on foil to downwind effectively. So I love that the Parawing is going to force so many wingers to be like, oh, crap, I need to get better at this. And, you know, because absolutely, like, paddling is, it's a different, like, you get less assistance when you're Parawing for sure, but you don't have to deal with the heart rate spike at the very beginning that the paddle up guy does.
Very true.
And so I do think it's going to accelerate people's learning, but I still think the paddle is going to be a tool that will make you a better downwinder in the long term, in sense of, like, when you want to start going longer and faster, it does start. And even like an example is, so many runs have a flat finish.
Yeah.
And right, like in a wind shadow. So say the Sydney race that we just did, it was in January. The whole, like, kilometer in, we had a headwind. Everyone was paddle pumping. And so if you were on a Parawing, firstly, you wouldn't have been able to use the Parawing to get back in. And secondly, you wouldn't, nobody could have pumped that. It was brutal. And so there's all these variables. And I have to say, I'm obviously always coming from this perspective of, like, the upper level. Like, I'm not, you know, like, let's say I'm in the top 200 of downwinders. Like, that's where I come from when I think about the paddle as well. So there are so many variables.
Do you feel, and I don't know where these sports are going to go, but I have a feeling that, like, the paddle will bring people that are more into the race scene, and the Parawinging will kind of be more attractive for the people that want to more, like, just surf and have, like, more of a carvy session downwind, and maybe in shorter runs, like you were mentioning before, because it is more enjoyable to do that with smaller boards, smaller foils.
Oh, for sure. I think I've been surprised at how many wingers haven't gotten into downwinding.
Yeah, I agree.
So even, like, wing assisted downwinders, it's been quite interesting that there's none, like, especially where I live, nobody does actual downwind runs. They do the short run. They'll do the 500 meters out and the 500 meters in. And so I think there'll be this distinction between, you know, longer distance downwinders. They will all still be mainly sup, I think. That's probably, like, the majority. But then the people that sort of dabble, they're going to be on the Parawings, because that's a way better tool to enjoy that 500 meter run back in, absolutely, than having a stupid wing flapping behind you.
Yeah, and I think those people are also the kind of person that maybe they're time poor. They want to park their car, have a session, and go.
Yeah,
you know,
an hour there, one and done.
Yeah.
Yeah, because sub downwinding is a limited sport to time and place. Like, it's not an easy sport to get good at. If you have, like, a 9-to-5 job, it's almost impossible. And so there is a lot of limitations with sup downwind. There's no doubt about that. I still think it's, like, the ultimate in terms of freedom of all conditions. But to get there, I essentially didn't work for 2 years, and that's what allowed me to get there. And everyone that I downwind with is either self-employed, so they have the control their own schedule, or they're semi-retired, you know, or they're surgeons and they work 2 days a week.
And that's all they need for the month.
Yeah, exactly. And so Parawinging is a much more accessible option for absolutely the majority of people. I just would love to see more wingers get onto a Parawing and actually start doing the longer runs. And because there's a type of satisfaction that you get from that you don't get from the in and outs. And there's a new challenge. And I think there's always this issue where we reach a level of ability in a certain thing and people just don't progress after that.
Yep.
And for anybody who wings and starts to Parawing, I'd encourage people to, like, go try a 15K run. It develops a whole new set of skills and perspectives that you can't otherwise get. So
The one that I think the paddle has on the Parawing and will always have, I think, is those longer runs. And I think you're right, because I haven't felt anything that compares to, like, and I'm talking maybe like 20, 30 plus K runs, like the mental state that you get in and the connection with the elements that you get in and the satisfaction of finishing a run like that without falling for the first time. The first time you ace a run like that, you're like, man, you're invincible.
Amazing.
Invincible. Yeah.
Like, oh, and this is my final point. Because I'm a content creator and I film so much, I always have a fucking pole anyway.
So yeah, so you have to get out on the Parawing and then get a stick out. Then you're like, well, you might as well get a paddle.
And a paddle is a really good length to get like the whole thing. Because during the Barcelona race, it was quite funny because I was there working with four-wheel drive and I had my selfie pole, and there was a few times I grabbed the pole and tried to paddle.
A little paddle pump. You're like, oh shit.
So like all this, like all the Parawing sessions I've done so far, I've had a freaking thing in there that I'm pulling out and I'm holding a pole anyway. So for me, it's not even a hands-free experience. So that's very
good,
unique
man.
to me.
Where do you think this Parawing thing will end up? What do you feel like will happen like in the next couple of years with it?
I think when they solve the range, the wind range problem, it's going to open up the sport massively. So I think there's a big influx now, and then I think there's going to be like a second wave. And there's a lot of people on the sidelines waiting for XYZ to be solved with Parawings. And, you know, all credit to the companies that are trying to keep up with the market. It's not easy. Yeah. And I think customers being demanding is going to be good in the sense that rather than it being, you know, first generation, second generation, third generation, oh, now the fourth generation is great. I think the next generation is going to blow the first out of the water, which is tricky for, you know, if you're a shop holding inventory. So I really feel for that, but also, you know, that's business. You know, the market drives demand. So I think for me personally, like a wing that is going to have a better, a Parawing that's going to have a better low range is going to open up the sport for me. And I'm not a unique case. I'm on the heavier side, pretty light now, but also just live in a place that isn't particularly windy. That is going to open a whole new category of people that will get into Parawing. But look, Maui, you can't deny that Maui leads the way. And I watched that, you know, JD Follow Cam, his YouTube channel, everyone's on a Parawing. So pretty much. I think that, and they're all doing ins and outs. You know, I can see, I actually want to take a Parawing setup to Hawaii, but I just don't have the room.
You don't have the room for a Parawing?
No, because you got a 10-foot board bag, which already weighs 30 kilos. And then I've got my foils. And so I'd have to buy a whole nother, it'd cost me like $350. So I'm like,
come on, man. One more DJ gig and you're there. You're good.
That's my hourly rate. What are you talking about?
Dude, I think what you said about wingers getting into Parawinging, I think people cap on their level in a sport and they keep doing that sport, and then it becomes a little bit stale. And I think if you're a winger now that does upwinds and you flag your wing and you do your little runs downwind and you're not thinking about doing a backflip or anything like that anytime soon, I think the Parawinging will give you a better experience in that regard. You'll have more fun with it. It'll give you a new challenge. And hopefully it'll open you up to, once you experience those short runs to shore, maybe you'll be like, maybe I want to connect and maybe I want to do 1 kilometer, 2 kilometers. And if you get into downwinding, I think everybody who does says this, it's the best thing ever. It's the best.
Absolutely.
There's nothing that compares to it.
Nah, and it'll never be too crowded. Like, and you know, I'm already experiencing that with prone foiling. Like, it's just so hard to find. And even winging, you know, it's busy.
Yeah.
So I think downwinding is always going to be it's the backcountry skiing of snowboarding. It's way cooler than skiing of foiling, and anything that's going to give people a road in is something so worth doing. Where I don't see, and this, I don't know if, I think you might agree with this, is I don't think it's going to replace full wave riding, like short and sharp stuff, because of that get it in, get it out type thing for a lot of people.
Yeah, it's tough, man. Like wave riding in the Parawing is probably the hardest thing to do with it at the moment. And I think, like you said, the gear is going to get better as well. Where I think, and BRM
More specific too.
Yeah, BRM like leapfrogged the industry again and launched 3 different models for 3 different specific use cases. And once you have a Parawing that you can stow quickly and redeploy, minimize tangles, all that stuff, wave riding will get better. But I still have a soft spot for proning, man. There's nothing cooler than going out there, like the simplicity of it, getting a wave, pumping out, doing like, a couple waves. And that's hard. That's another one that's freaking hard, man.
Yeah.
So props to that. I think the thing that Parawinging really is attractive is that like it allows you to have these experiences in these sports that are so hard to become proficient in. So hard to get good at downwinding. It's so hard to get good at proning, but you could serve a couple waves on a Parawing. You can start learning how to do downwinders on a Parawing, and I think it just opens up. It's a tool. It's another tool in your tool bag to have in your quiver, and when it's right, the day is perfect for it. It's pretty much unbeatable.
Yeah, and I still I would love to be a part of, there being 2-minute videos on YouTube that somebody can get a Parawing and watch 8 2-minute videos and know the fundamentals. Because I think that's sort of what I've been trying to work on, but I'm distracted by Hawaii now.
Yeah.
And no wind, so I can't even film. But that's sort of like, I think that's just going to help people. Like, and there is videos. You've got videos up. Steve's got videos. Cynthia's got videos. But that real, like, I'm a shocker. Like, I want a 1-minute video. That's me.
Yeah.
I'm like,
oh, dude, I was so lazy with those
Jimmy,
videos. I had no idea like if people were even gonna watch it. So I'm like, I'm not gonna like spend a lot of time with editing. I just put like a 30-minute unedited version of me eating shit out there.
Yeah.
So you will learn, but I probably should edit those and do a little series.
Well, if you should do it, because like you guys get good subtleties now. Is like just literally like 2 minutes. How to tack, how to jibe. That's it. Nothing else. Because like, we're all information whores these days. And I would love to get those out, but it's just can't do everything. I've got so many things on the go at the moment. So
yeah. And I think
tricky.
everybody's super focused on the races. And I spoke with a few guys as well. They're like, man, I'm really keen on the Parawing right now, but honestly, I'm just focusing on Hawaii. Yeah. And I think after July, still summer in the Northern Hemisphere, I think Parawing would just blow up. And Hood River will be ridiculous, man. I've been talking to so many people. Everyone will be on a Parawing.
Yeah, and I'd be on a Parawing at Hood River. Like, there's no doubt. Like, and that's, Hood River and places like that. Even like that video I put up recently of Povos, which is our little Hood River. Like the next time I go, I'm planning to just Parawing.
Yeah.
Because of how unique how surfy that place is. And I think this is what I'll finish on. The more surfy your bumps are going in the right direction, the more likely you are to Parawing and have the best time. Like so bay bumps that you can actually go down and surf. Whereas we're always cutting. Always cutting. So you never get to surf anyway. And even if you took a Parawing, you'd go in for a kilometer and then you'd be too close to shore. You'd have to tack back out anyway.
Yeah.
So the more like Hood River it is, the better.
No doubt. Let's end it on that, Dave. Thanks for coming in, man. Thanks for all the content you put out. I think it's awesome that you went through that experience of just showing people how it is, and good good, brave move from you, and a lot of people resonated with that video, man. You know, the comments, everybody was like, thanks for putting it out. So keep doing what you're doing, bro, and
Appreciate it.
we'll catch you next time.
Woo! Parawing!